Remember, beat him like a drum from
Mhm.
2019, 2020. Joe Biden said he's going to beat Trump like a drum. That's what folks are looking for. That's what they like. And if Joe Biden can go out there and do that on Thursday, I think it is going to bode very well for him. People have forgotten that Joe Biden does know how to get down and dirty and fight. So yes, throw a punch, but still remember, you are the president. So we want to be able to throw a punch on Thursday, but still go back and sit in the Oval Office Friday morning. And we don't want to get too dirty.
Hello and welcome to the Bulwark Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Miller. It is June 25th. The United States screened a record 2.99 million airline passengers on Sunday. An interesting record to set during this time of American carnage. And I'm delighted, to be here with Symone Sanders-Townsend. She's back. She's the co-host of MSNBC's The Weekend, former senior advisor to Biden's 2020 campaign, and chief spokesperson for VP Kamala Harris. What's going on, girl?
Greetings and salutations. I don't know. I do know why all these people are flying. You gotta find the joy wherever you can, Tim. You gotta laugh to keep from crying nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. The airport is packed. The lounges. I don't know if you're a lounge. Okay,
woman? The lounges are so packed that you can't even get a day pass anymore.
You can't even get a seat.
What is going on?
Yeah, the lounges are more packed than McDonald's. That's not a luxury experience in the lounge, and that's fine. You know, I'm a man of the people, but it's not a sign that we're living in a third world country like the former president wants to say. I want to talk to you first. I want to get to the debate stuff, obviously, but I want to talk to you first about your interview, your little three-way interview with Kevin Roberts.
The head of Heritage Foundation. Yes.
Yeah. So he is spearheading Project 2025. Dr. Kevin Roberts. I noticed you guys kept calling him Dr. Roberts. Is he an actual doctor? Or is it like one of these?
He is a PhD. He is not an MD, but I said exactly what you said. And then all of the PhD people were in my inbox saying, you are disparaging people with doctorates. And I'm like, look, I just meant he's not a medical doctor, honey.
I'm not disparaging anybody with a doctorate. My little brother's getting a doctorate right now. I'm just saying, I don't know. It felt like.
I have a doctorate, to be clear. I got an honorary doctorate from American. So, Dr. Sanders-Townsend.
Dr. Sanders-Townsend. So my first question for you, before we get into the details of his commentary about Project 2025 is what were your impressions of him and of the type of people that would be staffing the next Trump administration?
Well, we wanted to have Kevin Roberts on our show The Weekend because everyone has been talking about Project 2025. We have been discussing it. And I think that there is nothing more important than to hear from the people directly about the plans that they have, especially if they are as nefarious as it looks like on paper. So, in meeting him, I mean, I've met him one time before. I don't think he remembered, but Michael Steele, former chairman of the RNC, he knew who Kevin Roberts was. They had met before, and he is a true believer. And I thought that going into the interview, and it was confirmed in the interview, and it was confirmed after the interview. And he did say he was grateful for coming on, and he would like to come back. And I know that there are folks that will say, why do you want to talk to people like that? Because Kevin Roberts is, to your point, spearheading the effort of not just the policy for what would be the next Trump administration, but the people. And in that interview that we did, Michael really drilled down on the people aspect of it and doing away with all of these career civil service government officials in service of, this idea of institutionalizing Trumpism.
The ideology. Yeah, no, anybody who criticizes you for that is silly. I understand this platforming conversation. I think sometimes people have lost the plot. I get it. If it's a crazy person posting tweets for engagement, and they're posting racist stuff or misogynistic stuff, you don't want to quote, you don't want to give them more attention, right? Like, exactly. You don't want to give somebody that's some troll more attention. That's not this. This guy is running the Heritage Foundation, and it's going to be the point person on a transition if Trump comes in. You got to know what these people's plans are. Anyway, to that point, among the plans he mentioned in your interview was eliminating the Department of Education. Mm-hmm. Trump was this weekend talking about that, as well as at the Faith and Freedom conference. He talked about cutting funding for education in half, cutting all funding to schools that have vaccine mandates. I want to bring this up because this to me seems insane and very vulnerable. This is different than some of the other Trump crazy stuff. This is a direct policy that sounds like it's more out of the Ted Cruz playbook that just can't be popular. And yes. So anyway, I was wondering what your thoughts were on that.
But it is, but I don't think it's popular widespread. I mean, you tell people, oh, get rid of the Department of Education. And of course, people are like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they don't, it is my experience has been, Tim, that I don't think people really believe what they are being told.
Right.
They don't believe that Donald Trump is going to do what he's saying. They don't actually believe, they didn't believe us when we were all saying Project 2025 is some nefarious stuff, okay? They're talking about getting rid of the Department of Education, abolishing the department altogether, firing more than 50,000 people in the United States government, changing the Department of Health and Human Services to the Department of Life. It sounds insane, but the policy and the way in which they are writing about the policy seems, at face, seems very mundane and quite bureaucratic, if you will. And that is how I think a number of things are going to get done. It sounds insane to say post the 10 commandments in schools, public schools all across the state of Louisiana. However, the way that the policy was written, okay, passed through the legislature, was debated, nobody had anything to say nationally about the 10 commandments until the governor was about to sign the bill.
Yeah, right.
Right? And it was the way in which, kudos to the local reporters down there, decided to write it up. But if you look at the language of that particular bill, it sounds very mundane and run of the mill. That is how these things are going to get passed. And I do believe that is why people have to be very vigilant and just make sure that people are very educated, for lack of a better term, about what the policies actually are, what is actually being discussed, and that none of this is hyperbole. And so, you do what you will at the ballot box in November, but don't say we didn't try to tell you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that on 2 points. Well, one, on the education thing, it just is a little bit more tangible. To eliminate the Department of Education, people are kind of like, what does that do? Like Trump went out there and saying, cut funding in half and no funding to your school if they have a vaccine mandate. That's crazy talk. And
that's every single school, to be clear.
Yeah, exactly. That's every school, right? So that's
every single
school.
I mean, I went to private school. I went to Catholic school. Even a Catholic school, you gotta get your vaccines, kid.
Same. Well, I don't. Who knows? There are a couple of Catholic schools these days that kind of go in the MAGA direction, but most of the parochial schools, so they're still making you do your vaccine mandate. But I think you hit on something about this advantage of Trump and why we have to be vigilant about continuing to bring this stuff up is people don't take him seriously. I was talking to a business, somebody that's more in the business world than the political world yesterday. And I was like, why aren't the big business guys, why isn't CNBC more panicked about the tariff plan? Like why a 10% tariff would totally disrupt every global business, and not just the ones that are like, getting, cheap shit from China. Like any business that has, any sort of product that's made anywhere besides America is completely disrupted by a 10% tariff. And the answer was basically, I don't think nobody believes he'd actually do it. Right.
But why what I don't understand is at this point, why do the people that know better not believe that he would do it? Because the reality is that the people that were around Donald Trump last time, the folks who had served in, previous Bush administrations, right? People who had served actual real Republicans and had been Republicans their entire life and had participated in policy making. Yeah. Those are folks that saw and heard some of the things that Donald Trump was wanted to do and was trying to say. And they were like, no, we can't do this. The people around Donald Trump right now and the folks that will staff this eventual administration, I mean, that's what Project 2025 is, part policy, part people. Yeah. Okay. And then training up the people so that they know how to effectively carry out the policy that is aimed at institutionalizing Trumpism. And those are not my words. That is what Kevin Roberts said to us last Saturday.
All right. My last thing about this interview, because I have to bring it up, is I enjoyed this. We had this rhetorical debate over multiple topics. He wants to change the name of the HHS to the Department of Life, which is what I like to call like patriotic correctness, which the Republicans like to do. They like to criticize pieces. So in the same interview, he's criticizing you because you correct it and want to say undocumented immigrants rather than illegal immigrants. And he's like, oh, that's woke stuff. And then like 2 minutes later, it's like, well, why don't we call this the Department of Life?
He's like, why would you want to call it Department of Life? And I'm like, fine, but also tell me if you think women whose doctors say they need an abortion should be able to get one. And he said abortion is not health care. He went on to multiple times. And I don't know. I think that people want to get hung up on I've been getting lots of fan mail, for lack of a better term, from people who feel very strongly about me stepping in and saying, "Oh, I don't want to use the term illegal," because I just believe in humanizing people. You know what I mean? So we're talking about people. I don't think people are illegal. Activities can be illegal. In my opinion, people are not, because people are not property. I thought we already addressed that in this country. So I like to refer to individuals coming to the southern border who are crossing the border and not at a port of entry and have not done so legally as undocumented.
Yeah, that's fair. We're in a moderate, safe space here at the Bulwark. I'm like, I don't need the patriotic correctness or the PC, but I hear you. I don't. I also cringe at calling somebody an illegal. That makes me cringe.
It's just weird. Like, it's weird. And it's like, I believe though that and I love the term patriotic correctness. I'm going to start actually using it.
You can steal it. That's fine.
I'm going to steal it. I'm going to be like, shout out, hat tip to Tim. Yeah. But the patriotic correctness is frankly what people want us to get caught up on. He would have loved for me to take the bait in the interview when I said the thing about undocumented. And he's like, oh, well, they are illegal aliens. But that's nice. Yeah. They're illegal aliens. He wanted me to retort and come back. I'm not here to get into a back and forth with you about your patriotic correctness, because you're a true believer. And so I'm not here to try to convince you otherwise. I want you to say what it is that you believe and what your project is doing so that people can hear it for themselves and make their own decisions. Yeah. That's why you're here. You're not here to get into a back and forth with me about some words, honey.
Yeah, my patriotic correctness bit worked better during the Colin Kaepernick saga. It works a little less good now that Sam Alito's turning the American flag upside down outside his house. But anyway, that's, I guess, for another day. Speaking of the Department of Life, boy, as somebody that used to unapologetically call themselves pro-life and now is looking at these pro-lifers and are like, I don't think that's what pro-life means. Pastor Jeff Durbin out of Arizona, he gave me a little kick in the ass. Let's listen to this advocate against the abortion ballot initiative coming up in Arizona.
Abortion should be considered a crime. It should be considered murder. You're unjustly taking the life of a human being, and so that's murder. And what I've said is what is the historic position of the Christian church, that if you take the life of a human being unjustly, then what the state owes you, if it's proven and it's true, is capital punishment. You forfeit your right to live.
Symone, death penalty for women, is that pro-life?
It is not. It is not pro. Not only is it not pro-life, it's very anti-woman. Yeah. And you know what, Tim? I don't know if I told you, I'm from Nebraska, right? So I grew up around, yes, I'm from Nebraska, North Omaha to be specific. Go Big Red, okay? Go Huskers. And so I grew up around conservative, politics my entire life. While Nebraska is Nebraska is a red state. Omaha is, that blue dot, that elusive blue dot everybody keeps talking about. But I went to school with, I told you,
that might be I'm sorry just to interrupt you, but let's just put a pin in this. That might be an important blue dot. You and me might be going to Nebraska, because if that blue wall, if it's just that blue wall, they're going to, Biden, if he only wins Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and not the other swing states, he's got to win Nebraska too. You're a blue dot.
Yes, Nebraska is only one of these two places that will split their electoral college votes. It's Nebraska and Maine. Right. And Obama got it in 2008 and 12. Yeah. Biden got it in 20. The campaign thinks that they're going to get it again in 2024. So you let me know when you're ready to go to.
Yeah, me and you. Maybe we have a barbecue in Omaha in October. Yeah,
okay. That'd be good. It's a very interesting place. And so I am very familiar with, conservative Republican politics. That is not foreign to me. And the people that I grew up with and the elected officials that I know, they were not running on for, 20, 40 organizing for years that women should be jailed, put to death, right? That doctors should be jailed and fined if they administer the healthcare that a woman needs, that healthcare is an abortion. That's not what they ran on. That's not what they were organizing about. But that is exactly what the policy is now. That is what is happening in places across this country. And now you've got very fringe pieces of the conservative movement that are coming out in force and saying, well, women are only just here to give us babies. And if they're not going to give the babies, I don't think that they should be able to live. And it sounds crazy. It sounds like hyperbole, but y'all just heard the clip. And you can play clips of state legislators in South Carolina, in North Carolina, state legislators in Wisconsin, state legislators in Arizona who are saying the exact same things. This is anti-life, and it is very anti-woman, honey. And I am concerned, Tim.
Yeah. And here's a line. Here's another line. Because again, I keep being like, you guys, there's a big middle on abortion. You could have some of your old friends from Nebraska, if it was just like, hey, some of this stuff's going too far. We need to make sure women have the health care they need. If they're having ectopic pregnancies, they're having these extreme situations, if they're raped. And yet they refuse to do it. Here's Trump himself talking about how he thinks the overturn of Roe has worked out.
And we were able to do that when we terminated Roe v. Wade. Now, when you look at it and you look at what's happening all over the country now, states are voting. Ohio just voted. All different, by the way. It's tailor-made, and it's really working out well for people. And they're very, very happy. Every legal scholar felt for a long time. For 53 years, they've been trying to do it.
Really working out well, Symone. You think that's something the Biden campaign's going to use?
I would be interested to see if Joe Biden himself brings this up and not just in his speeches that he's doing on the debate stage. Like how are they going to attack and go after this? And I know how people are. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I participate in a lot of TV things. I read all the things and I talk to people. There is this idea that the Democrats are focusing a little too much on abortion and not enough on the economy. And I would just posit, again, as a person with the actual womb, as I described to, Dr. Kevin Roberts, abortion is an economic issue. This is not happening in a vacuum. Healthcare is an economic issue. People's ability to be able to pay for the care that they need, to access the care that they need, the ability to decide about the family you want to have, that is not a fringe issue. It is directly tied up in everything. And so Donald Trump needs to start answering some actual questions about these things. And I don't think he has good answers, but people have to be listening to what he is saying, which is why I think it's important that we play the sound, that you hear Donald Trump is in his own words, because we're not paraphrasing what this man said. We're not making it up. I'm not putting anything else on it. This is what he's saying. And when Maya Angelou told us, when people tell you who they are, believe them. Listen, y'all, listen.
I mostly agree with that. I want to maybe nitpick one question, or maybe not nitpick. Let's just hash out one element of that criticism about whether the Democrats are focusing too much on abortion. Your old boss, Kamala Harris, she was on your current network, MSNBC. I think it was yesterday morning, and she brought Hadley Duvall with her.
Mm-hmm.
It's a horrifying story. She survived her stepfather's sexual abuse as a child, and I get it. I get that the VP is out there and wanting to use these stories to talk about just the real human impact of the overturn of Roe and of Dobbs and of some of these policies that these red state legislators have been putting in. Okay, so I'm with all that. I do wonder, though, is the balance right? I mean, I would like to see VP. She was a prosecutor. I'd like to see her making the case a little bit more against Trump on the economy, on his criminality, on you name it.
You want the case to be prosecuted on all of the things. You just don't want to prosecute the case. Because she did a speech yesterday on the anniversary of Dobbs. She did a speech where she basically, when I used to work for her, we called it, we got to have the VP prosecute the case. Yeah. She lays it out like she would if she was in a courtroom.
And I get it, on the anniversary of Dobbs, I get it. But,
yes.
But it's not just this week. I mean, it's just, she's been doing a ton on abortion, which I get. But I don't know. Doesn't Biden need a junkyard to an attack dog a little bit on some of this other stuff?
I would say that, and maybe it's an indictment on all of us, but, while the vice president was also on this road tour, she was also doing a whole Black economic opportunity tour where she was sitting down. She had a famous, very prominent Black men like D.L. Hughley. I think she just did this thing with Quavo. That was about gun violence, though. Mm-hmm. But she's been doing these tours about Black economic opportunity, talking about what the administration has done, what they would hope to do, what Donald Trump's plan is not, and what he has said and done. And that did not get as much coverage. Frankly, It's gotten very little to no coverage. And so I would argue that while cabinet secretaries and whatnot are amazing, you need them, but they are not the president and the vice president. They are not on the ballot. So the president and vice president, they do need to do more on the economy. But when they do it, it is not being covered in the same way. And she had been on a sustained tour. So I would just argue that perhaps we all should give the same energy to the economic stuff that they do as we do to what they do and say about Roe, because the president has also been out there on the economy and whatnot. And It hasn't permeated the same because we haven't played the clips.
It's a fair media criticism, and the media shouldn't be like this. But you and I, we were both flacks, so we know what the reality is.
It's like what's sexy? What's popping?
Yeah, wouldn't she get more attention though if she was throwing more haymakers, right? Like, wouldn't that be the way to get attention? If she was at the event with Quavo and then she like dunked on whatever Trump's the stupid thing he said the night before, like, wouldn't that help?
I think so. I mean, I think that there's the concern when I was her, press person and whatnot. The fine line that we always tried to walk when I was there was something coming from the vice president will sound different because she says it. Joe Biden and her can say the same thing. And because she said it, because she's a woman of color, for whatever reason, she's a younger woman, like whatever reason, it will be heard differently. And so I do think her team is trying to calibrate, but that doesn't mean that the campaign cannot find opportunities to make it happen from both the president and the vice president. And I think the debate stage is a very good opportunity for that from the president himself. I think post-debate is very good opportunity. It's my understanding that the spin room is down the dang on street from where the debate's going to happen. So I don't know if we're going to get some surrogates making their way over to the spin room who were watching it in some random room in where the debate is. But I just think there are opportunities. Donald Trump does give lots of material. Yeah. And if you do not talk about what he is saying and doing, if the campaign does not choose to seize on the specifics and elevate it and not just elevate the crazy, right? Like Donald Trump wants everybody to be talking about his UFC cage fights, but not the thing that he said about the tariffs.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just more is more. I understand the concern about you don't want, there's misogyny, there's this sense of that it would come out different coming from her. But I just say, man, let it loose. I don't know. Well, I think that's a worthwhile risk at this point. But easy for me to say as a white guy podcasting in my parents' basement right now. Anyway, we got a debate coming up. You mentioned it. I'm going to be there in Atlanta, down the street. It sounds like.
Down the street. You're going to be down the street.
The first question I have to ask you, since you did work for Joe Biden, is what is his drug regimen like? Uppers, downers, screamers, laughers, amyl
nitrates? You mean that orange Gatorade? It's just orange Gatorade and water, a little tea, honey. That's it. That's it.
They tried this playbook 4 years ago.
That's the magic cocktail.
I'm bored of this. Come up with something new, Donald. It's a new season. All right. This, like we're doing a callback to season 3 of The Apprentice here. He already did this Joe Biden's on drugs thing in 2020.
He did. And you know what? If you remember the debate, I mean, I was in all of Joe Biden's debate preps in 2019, 2020. I was at all the debates. Donald Trump was, if he seemed unhinged on television, it was completely unhinged in that debate hall. So it was just like, and to the point where if someone did suggest he was on something, I could understand it, but no one did. This is insane. Yeah. But Donald Trump has to come up with something though, Tim, because they lowered the bar so much to say that like the president of the United States isn't even able to stand up for 20 minutes. So now they have to give they gotta say something about why he's going to do so well, because they made the bar so low. If you watch Fox News all day, you think, oh my goodness, Joe Biden is being propped up by puppets. And when he gets up there and does a good job, well, what is Donald Trump's excuse going to be? And right now, it's apparently there's something in the Gatorade. Okay.
Okay. What was that debate prep like? I mean, because I remember doing it with Jeb. To me, the biggest challenge is always how do you talk? Like, how do you choose what to respond to? How do you engage? Because Trump is just the river of shit. You say something, and he starts talking about Hunter, and then he starts talking about the third world economy, and he starts talking about the airports. People have tents in airports, and then he starts talking about Hannibal Lecter, and then it's like, back to you, sir. And it's like, which thing do you pick? Do you remember, like, how did you prep him for kind of dealing with the Trump insanity?
So the way that, Ron Klain and Anita Dunn, they ran Debate Prep 2019, 2020. It's my understanding, same thing is happening this go round. And I think the biggest thing is to remember that while you are debating Donald Trump, you are speaking to the audience. Mm-hmm. This is your moment for America. This is not your moment for Trump. And so if you get into a back and forth with Donald Trump, everyone is hands are flailing and it's sounding a little crazy. The people at home can't tell the difference. And so the thing in 2020 was to really ensure that at the end of the day, he's going to be crazy, you are stable. He's going to be insane, you are stable. And so he's going to be yelling and crazy. You're going to say, okay, okay. and you're going to command the stage and make sure you're speaking to the people. You don't need to talk to him. You need to talk to the people. And then be ready to know that he's going to attack you, and then practice the attacks. And so I know that now it's been reported Bob Bauer is playing Trump again. Of course he is. Bob is a very, very convincing Trump. And he really takes seriously. He did in 2020, getting into character. And I have no doubt that like any of the insults that could be lobbed on Thursday at the debate, Bob Bauer is going to lob them in practice, because that is the best way to ensure. What you don't want is you don't want your candidate to get on the stage and the first time they hear something is on that stage.
Exactly. This is important. And this is hard. This is always my job, not to play the other candidate, but to be the one to ask the asshole questions. So I got kicked out of so many debate preps. But it's like somebody's got to bring up Hunter in this debate prep, right? And that's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And so somebody's got to have the courage to do it. Okay, I want to listen to your colleague, my favorite. Sorry, you're on the top tier.
Well,
but,
Nicole's my favorite too. To be clear, she's everyone's favorite.
Let's listen to Nicole's advice together, really quick, because I'm interested if you agree.
I prepared a lot of folks who weren't great at debating. And what you need is a self-own. And I think in this moment, Joe Biden has to go out there with a self-own on the age thing. I mean, I'm so old, I may not make it through the next 90 minutes without needing to sit down and taking a sip of water. But I'll never disgrace the office of the presidency. I'll never hand state secrets over to the enemy. I'll never call Vladimir Putin a really smart guy. I'll never frame a love letter from Kim Jong-un. In fact, Kim Jong-un hates my guts. You know why? Because I call him an evil dictator, not the love of my life. I mean, he has to come in there and punch him in the face with his own boasts. Trump boasts about things that are traitorous. Trump boasts about things that are disgusting. Trump boasts about grabbing women between the legs. And if Biden doesn't go in there and punch him in the face with his own things he's proud of, then the thing is lost before it starts.
Thoughts?
Okay, so I agree with Nicolle like 90%. I do not think Joe Biden should make a joke about, I think he should make a joke about being too old. Yeah. Like he sometimes does, where he talks about, George Washington. Yeah, I knew him. I went to school with him. But he should not give them any kind of audio or fodder that would allow them to, as I'm talking about the right-wing media apparatus and the Trump folks, that they can manipulate to make him look even worse. You get what I'm saying? So like, I might not be able to stand up for 20 minutes. No, sir, you can't stand up for 20 minutes. That's not something you should say. And I think he should punch him in the face, but like not seem too overly aggressive. But people want to see when I'm out traveling and whatnot, hell, even when I go to my nail shop, people are I'm asking folks like, I'm taking the temperature. What do you think? What are you hearing? Blah, blah, blah. And what they say about Joe Biden, for people who have supported him before, they say, we want to see Uncle Joe. We want to see beat him like a drum Joe. You remember beat him like a drum from 2019, 2020? Joe Biden said he's going to beat Trump like a drum. That's what folks are looking for. That's what they like. And if Joe Biden can go out there and do that on Thursday, I think it is going to bode very well for him. There has not been a one-on-one contrast. So people have forgotten that Joe Biden does know how to get down and dirty and fight. They are seeing him, though, and they're wondering, he's a little old. I don't know if he can still throw a punch like he used to. So yes, throw a punch, but still remember, you are the president. So we want to be able to throw a punch on Thursday, but still go back and sit in the Oval Office Friday morning. Okay. We don't want to get too dirty.
I'm pretty close to you. Yeah, I cringed a little bit at Nicole's old joke, or old self-deprecating joke. The point was right. I'm with her on punch him in the face, though. I'm with her. I think you got to do it. But anyway, we'll see.
But how? The biggest way he could punch him, I think, would be on the legals, and we know Joe Biden's not going to touch the legals.
Yeah.
The legals.
I don't know about January 6th. I think that, to me, it comes back to Trump's lies, and there's, I think, a way to punch him on the legals, by talking about, how crime's up, at his golf clubs, and it's down in the rest of the country. But I think that he's got to punch him on January 6th. Like, look, man, the Capitol was stormed. Our Capitol was stormed because of you. Capitol Police. There's a Capitol Police officer that died because of you. Have you ever called his mother? You know what I mean? Like, I think that.
Oh, that's a good one. Oh, when is this airing? I hope they hear that one. That's good. Yeah.
You're friends with Anita. Send that to Anita and Bob Bauer. Okay. You mentioned the chatter at the nail salon, so I gotta end on I just, nobody will talk with me about this. And I was like, Symone will talk with me about this because I'm obsessed with this. It's Louisiana. And it is overlapping with, my anti-regulation interests, which I have to bring up sometimes on the Bulwark. So, so I don't sound like you, so I don't sound like Bernie Sanders over here. I got to sound like a Republican again sometimes. Louisiana hair braider Ashley Ndakpri and her attorneys from the Institute for Justice, We Love IJ, are taking this to the Supreme Court. They're trying to make it demonstrate that it is unconstitutional, the requirements on licensing on hair braiders. Can you believe this? Listen to this. To be a hair braider in Louisiana. So anyway, I said this is a Republican view. It's not a Republican view. It's a free market. It's a conservative view because the Republicans have made this fucking racist law. Louisiana requires all hair braiders to complete 500 hours of training at a private cosmetology school, pass written and practical exams, and pay fees to the licensing board to braid hair. Symone, this can be a bipartisan thing, right? We can get rid of this.
Right? I think we could get rid of it. And you know what? The regulations that are in place for this one, specifically in Louisiana, it is meant to crush the ability for a young Black woman who wants to start her own hair braiding business, right? Who gets enough money to get a salon, who has passed all the regulations for her salon, and maybe her salon is just hair braiding. Yeah. And the 500 hours, like it is excessive. I know so many people who have been able to make a living who are just amazing stylists, hairstylists, and hair braiding is one of the things that obviously I am not a current participant, but I used to be. It is. I think that they have a case to be made, but this is. You never know. This is real. Well, I can come back. You just never know. I can also get a hair braid wig. But this has real implications for people all over the country. There was something similar like this in Iowa, where the hair braiders, they got together and they challenged a law that, again, the needs for training were just so cost restrictive onto the person who was seeking to get the license. It was just insane, for lack of a better term. They would have it's like they're making it so hard for me to just be able to do something I love, to be able to make some money and start a business, to be able to feed my family. So I'm with you on this. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's excessive. And I am interested to see what happens. All
right, me too. Licensing reform. We can do this.
Yes,
we can do some things.
Yes. We don't want the standards to be relaxed, but let's just make it make sense for the industries that we are talking about. Like let's make it make sense, okay?
Yeah, if you got to pay some licensing board to make sure you can operate on my eyes, like okay, but let's be real here, all right? We're paying a fee. We're paying, let people have their side hustle, all right? And we know who they're going after with hair braiding rules.
It ain't Susie in Bucks County, that's for sure.
It ain't. All right. We're over. But we have to make an announcement. Big announcement happened yesterday. You're going to be there. What's happening at MSNBC in September? Tell all the people, because we got some listeners I know that might want to be there.
Yes, MSNBC Live was launched earlier this year, and we are so excited because on September 7th, the creme de la creme of your MSNBC, everybody from Joy to Rachel to Saki to Nicolle to Lawrence to all your favorites on the weekend, to Alex Wagner, to literally everybody, we're coming together for MSNBC Live, Democracy 2024, talking all about the election, what's at stake, all the conversations that people love that we have on the network in those primetime hours, before the debates, after the debates, before the big nights, what they love that we're doing on the weekend. You can come in person in Brooklyn, okay, September 7th, and get this live, these specialized panels. I'm very excited about it. This is a real user experience. And so we hope people come out and meet us. We'll have opportunities to do meet and greets. I think, depending on what kind of ticket you get, you can come to dinner with some of us. So this is a consequential time. And I know that people love when we have the conversations, when we break down everything that's happening, and they have the opportunity to come and see up close and personal. Well, this is the opportunity. Come and see up close and personal. MSNBC Live, September 7th.
September 7th in Brooklyn. If you want to do a South-North thing, you're going to take a little weekend out of it. The Bulwark Live is in Dallas. Me and Adam Kinzinger and some other September 5th. You can go September 5th. You're in Dallas. It's going to be hot. You're like, no. I got to get up to the city. I'm going to fly out to the city September 7th. It'd be a little democracy weekend out of it. Anyway.
Come on now. I love that. Hit the Bulwark. Hit MSNBC Live. Join us. Okay, so you can find it all online. Literally, you can go to any of our MSNBC socials, any of the talent socials. We've all posted about it, MSNBC.com. It's literally up there at the top of the banner. But MSNBC Live, Democracy 2024, we want to see you there.
See you September 7th. Miss Symone Townsend Sanders, Dr. Symone Townsend Sanders. Thank you so much, Doctor. Come back to the podcast soon.